Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Legacy of Star Wars live here on Fandom Empire. And just like that, Episode 3 of Star Wars The Acolyte, led by Leslie Headland, is in the books. Did it ruin Star Wars for you? Did you throw something at your TV? Did you burn your house down? In which case, why are you watching us? Obviously, a lot of that is tongue-in-cheek. Joining me, as always, as they will be all through this series, it's Kieran and Randy. Randy, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Definitely can't wait to get into this. And if anybody thinks this ruined Star Wars for them, then clearly they're not paying attention. So, yeah, like I said, I'm excited to get into this because this was quite the episode.
Understatement. Kieran, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. Before we get into anything, if I'm paying attention to what's going on down here, it's because I got a couple of doggies down here with me. Because I'm pretty my wife and son are off at an amusement park. So,
oh, nice.
Different than hopefully every other week, but I got a couple of doggies over here with me. Anyways,
you do what you got to do, man.
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm very excited to get into this episode.
All right, so yeah, episode 3 is in the books. It was the whole thing's a flashback episode. Maybe just initial non-spoiler thoughts off the top, what you thought of the episode. You know, maybe you're happy, maybe you're not. We'll see. Randy, take things away, man.
I mean, overall, I felt like it was a great episode. Definitely added backstory that we knew was there, but we didn't fully know until we got to sit down and watch this. My wife literally looked at me as the episode ended. She was, wow, that was absolutely amazing. I love it. And this is someone that basically just loves Star Wars. She's not super crazy about, like some super fans who's like, oh my God, it's woman led, blah, blah, blah. She just loves Star Wars. She enjoys everything she sees. And the fact that she's loving it, given the nature and the tone of the show so far, I mean, it speaks volumes, just how well written it is and whatnot. So yeah, I think this one was great. And I can't wait till we delve deeper.
Kieran, what about you, man? How'd you feel about the episode?
I thought it was a very enriching episode. Like, it was very it definitely added to the first couple episodes. I really liked it. I actually caught myself slack-jawed and just like, and had to pick my jaw back up. And yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I think if you would have told me, okay, episode 1 and episode 2 going to be this and that, and episode 3 is going to be a whole flashback, nothing current, I would have taken bets on, no, that's probably going to be the snooze fest, boring, whatever. Like, it might, I wouldn't have thought that it was going to be the best episode of the series so far. And spoiler alert for me, I thought it was the best episode so far.
Yeah, you know what? I'll echo those sentiments. I think it was far and away the best episode so far. I'll walk through some categories here quickly, but like on a production level, it's by far the best thing they've done outside of Andor. Like nothing else they've done has had that level of production. But the story, like it had time to breathe. It was a little bit longer. And it was handled well, though the whole episode was acted well. It didn't answer everything, which is good because it leaves you with, maybe you're buying that everybody died by a fire, but like, come on. Spoilers, obviously, in this episode, so apologies for that. Yeah, I just far and away the best episode of this series. I can't remember what my ratings were. I will check. I know they're in our chat. And I need to check before we give our ratings at the end, how many Nemoidians out of 10. But I was pretty blown away, to be honest. I caught myself just zoned into the TV. And at one point I said to myself, outside of Andor, this is the closest Star Wars has ever felt to Game of Thrones, in my opinion. Just the way the episode was put together, the focus on the characters, the narrative that was being pushed. And I'll say this, Leslie Headland has said at length how much she loves, KOTOR and how much she played those games. And I got to tell you, watching this episode and again, leaving more questions to be answered at the end while answering a few of them, giving you some nuggets, giving you some answers, but keeping you coming back for more answers, felt like the most Knights of the Old Republic thing a Star Wars series has done yet. Without getting too spoilery off the top here, I could not have asked for more out of this episode, and pretty pleased with what it delivered just in general. I think this is an episode that will be hard to top, and if they do, well, then we're in for one hell of a ride.
I think there will be a topper, but I mean that's because there's gonna be some sort of revelation, right? There's gonna be. You're right. It's not just gonna be they all May started a fire and they all died. Like, I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen. Obviously, like, spoiler from the show, the Jedi feel guilty about something, whether that's just they visited at all, which I don't think is likely. There's going to be something that goes down. And I think whatever happens there might just end up topping this episode. But I agree, it's going to be hard to top. It's going to get a good score from me. And, I hate when this happens, but it looks like we're unanimous on the fact that this was a good episode. I hate when this happens. I'd rather be on a podcast where we're yelling at each other. But it doesn't seem like it's going to happen tonight. So, I think we'll get a better one. But this is a really, really good episode.
No, I agree. Now if you want to scream while you do the podcast, at least you'll get your yelling in that way. But trying not to be too spoilery, it's just like there was just some things in here that really just kind of piqued my interest, and I was zoning the TV, and I had some thoughts that just kind of flashed in my head, and I'm just like, okay, I got to save this for when we talk later. But yeah, the scenery was absolutely gorgeous. I love the two moons. I thought that was a real nice touch. The costume designs were really cool. I love the diversity of all the different races that were involved, because that's usually typical of Star Wars. You get so many different races, whether it's like you're watching the original and you get the Cantina, but the fact that it was all female, which was, I didn't really, once I actually saw all of them together, I was like, oh, right, there's absolutely zero males here involved. But also there's a part that I know we'll get into when we get into the spoilers that kind of leads into some canon things that we learned in the prequel trilogy that was very nice little tie-in. I'll give it that. But man, my mind's all over the place, because I'm just like, man, there's so much good in this episode that it's crazy to me that we're getting it so early in the season rather than, say, like a mid-season finale, or getting closer to the end where we're trying to set up that final episode of the season. And God, it's almost like that one episode of The Last of Us where they did that little backstory and you're just kind of going, oh wow, this is absolutely amazing. Why are they doing this early? But no, I get it. I hope they top it. I'm not gonna lie. I hope that we get a topper episode.
I mean, it'd be incredible. It'd be an achievement. Just a forewarning to everybody, we're going to kind of jump all over the place here. We don't have set show notes for tonight. It's only 3 of us, so it can be a little more organic. And I feel like George's question here, what are your thoughts on the backstory of the witches, is a perfect place to open up the spoiler discussion for the episode. So let's start there. Obviously, there is a heavy witch backstory, narrative, perspective in this episode. I know some people, the haters online, are going to roll their eyes, and my response to that's going to be, have you never watched the Clone Wars? Did you skip Ahsoka? Like, the witch thing is not new to Star Wars. Courtship of Princess Leia. It goes way back, right? Like, this isn't, I've seen some takes out there already too. Like, I really quickly looked at Twitter before getting on here. It's like, oh, this is the most fresh new Star Wars thing. It's like, no, you just haven't educated yourself in some of the past Star Wars things. And not that that's a bad thing. Honestly, I loved it. I loved the different take, because everybody, for me anyways, people go Jedi. Oh, Jedi means good. But let's be honest, when we're looking at that coven, now obviously we don't know what this person did to create the children. What was her name? Mother. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation.
Mother Coral is the one with the horns. The other one is
Nisea. Does that sound right? Because I think it's Ocean Nisea. So
I'll get on it.
Anyway, obviously there's
it's usually Johnny's job, damn
it. they used to or they hinted obviously at some definitely unorthodox ways of bringing the children into life, and I think that's the part everybody's supposed to be, at least to the haters online, the oh my god, this ruined Star Wars part, and for me it's like, I don't know if it's canon anymore, so I don't want to say it is. But there's literally an official Star Wars story out there of how Anakin came into existence. And I'm not saying they're going that route, but similar things,
it's comic book canon.
Is it canon now? I didn't know if it was
canon. That Palpatine basically used the technique to impregnate Shmi. Yes. So that is comic book canon.
The character's name is Mother Anasea.
Anasea, okay. So yeah, people are gonna beat their drums online about how could they do this? How could they go this route in Star Wars? It's like, people, they already have. So if you're hating on it, you're probably just a sexist pig. Sorry.
And this is how Plagueis could have learned the technique himself.
Very much so. And I still think that he's involved in the story. I know we haven't had that officially, but I think he's one of the puppets here behind the scenes. But honestly, I love the witch perspective, and I don't know how you guys felt, but like, I didn't exactly get the feeling that, oh, these are a bunch of evil, fucking terrible people doing god-awful things. And if anything in the episode, the one thing that stood out to me was kind of a nefarious move by the Jedi. And we'll touch on that a little later. But Kieran, I'll go to you first. Your thoughts on George's question here, the backstory of the witches and how it was handled in the episode.
Well, I mean, there's been witches, and like, I just held up the Courtship of Princess Leia book, which I'm pretty sure, if I remember my books right, then that one has a whole planet with Force using witches, and I think they ride on Rancors, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff in there. If not, there is a book. I'm pretty sure it's that one. But so, it's in the vaunted EU. It's in the Clone Wars show. Like, it's not just people who choose to be Jedi who end up being able to use the Force. It's Force sensitive people end up doing different things. Now, the fact that it's a group of witches is probably going to piss people off. I honestly really don't care about the people who are just going to be pissed off about this for no reason. I've heard a lot of the acting is terrible, and I've heard a lot of the story is garbage and all sorts of stuff like that. And yet nobody ever goes on to tell me why the story isn't good, just that it's bad. So whatever. I don't care about those people. Beyond that, in my own actual opinion, I like it. I thought it was really good. I like the idea that someone else is taking the Force, and the Jedi kind of write their own rules about how to use it and why it should be used and how they should train people. It doesn't make sense that they're the only people who came up with their own rules and whatever. I mean, the Sith kind of grow out of the Jedi at some point, right? That's kind of one thing, but there's also other groups of people who are able to hide from the Jedi, who are able to come up with their own sets of rules and their own things about it. I mean, I liked the one line I think Mother Anastasia said about other people would say this is dark magic or dark powers, but they're like, that's not how we feel. We feel like we use this for what we think is right, or whatever. They're basically saying like, hey, you guys got your own rule book, but that's not the book. So I really thought that was cool. The only thing I can say I didn't like, the only thing that stuck out to me is I really didn't like the chanting, the like not one, not two, but many. I thought that really didn't resonate with me. It seemed like poor writing. They couldn't come up with a better chant than that. That was like literally the only thing that kind of took me out of it. I was like, oh, couldn't have wrote something better than that. Like that's I don't know. I honestly thought that was kind of silly. And I think that was the only time I did a time check on my phone. And when I did that, it was like 9:30. So I was like, holy crap, half an hour passed by. So quickly zoned back in and enjoyed the rest of the episode. But yeah, the idea of witches I thought was great. I remember reading about it in old books, and I remember thinking the concept was cool at that time too. So
I like the line about, I think you were alluding to it. It's not necessarily good or evil. It's not that simple. It's about power and who's allowed to wield it. And I think even that line paints the Jedi not in the greatest light. And we'll dive into that a bit. But Randy, your thoughts on the witch perspective in this episode and how they were handled?
Well, obviously they were handled a little bit, I would say better, but in a way that it blurred that line where it's kind of like it's gray, where you could see good perspectives from their side, but also perspectives from the Jedi, which is something you want. It's a way to create the discussion piece over it. Unlike the witches of Dathomir, who were just straight dark side users, period. But with this, you seem to get a little bit of both, and that's fine. That's the way they decide to handle this particular coven of being kind of like right down the middle, and that's how it should be, in my opinion. But ultimately, I liked how their idea of the Force is different, and it should be. I think we don't get enough of that in Star Wars, where whether it's race or faction or somebody has a different idea of what the Force is, what it actually pertains to, and how it's practiced, how it's used, which is, it's nice because it expands on the lore of the Force, and I would assume in the future we'll probably get stuff, books and comics and stuff that'll expand on this particular coven, if we don't, especially with the High Republic books. But I think the thing is that kind of threw me off a little, and I would say a little bit, is there were times where it felt a bit cultish. And I think that's kind of where I was just kind of like feeling a little weirded out by it, especially like once they started doing the chanting and things like that. And I'm just like, okay, this feels like a cult now, not a coven, but a cult. And that's just my opinion, but it's just, I think that's kind of where, like Kieran said, the chanting was a little off-putting, but maybe that was the intention. Maybe you were supposed to feel uneasy to add to the differences between Osha and May. Maybe that chanting was meant to kind of make you feel a little on edge while watching this whole ascension happen, and then the Jedi stepping in at the last second. But yeah, I think they did really good at developing what the two main characters of the Coven. You could tell the distinct personalities. They fleshed them out really quick, and you could tell that whoever wrote the lore for what they did here, they did a great job of just really making it feel like something that legitimately could happen in the Star Wars universe. Whereas some stuff we've seen, it's just like, where did you pull that from? So at least it felt somewhat original, even though they are treading on witches like they've done before in the past. It was something different, and I really did like it just for that alone.
Actually, I have a question for you guys that I think directly like follows this, and I think it's maybe the most important part of the episode. What do you guys think about the Jedi invading after that? And they show up with kind of all different, like almost intentions, right? Like Soul is like, oh, like we've come to see if we can test the children, and Kate Moss is like, she shows up like, okay, we're taking the like you guys are in violation of the law, like you guys can't be hiding from us. I know that you guys are hiding children, like she's very open about like, I know you guys have children, like you can't stop us. It's weird that she says like you can't be teaching them the Force or whatever, the law, and then she's like, we can take them with your permission, of course. But it's a very, like, in my opinion, it's a very like, unless you say no, in which case we'll probably try to do it anyways. Like, I don't know if Zach will be upset, but I feel like she's kind of she's on the wrong side of the fence when it comes to Jedi. The ones that are kind of in error, like we were talking about, your last episode is maybe not going by what we think a good Jedi should do. What is the Wookiee's name again?
Kalnaka.
These names are going to kill me. Kalnaka? It's Kalnaka, right? He seems just generally like kind of like interested, like he's peeking around and looking at things. He's obviously looking for the children, but he just kind of seemed very like open to what is this? Can I learn about this? And then you have Torben, who looks scared shitless the first time you see him. Like, and then shit happens to him, which I'm sure makes him even more freaked out. But I thought it was really cool. They all came out with a different looking opinion on what this was, and probably all would have dealt with it in a different way. I thought it was the most important part of the episode, and I want to know, since it directly follows what we were just talking about, what your guys' opinion of that was.
Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I mean, you picked up on, great, you picked up on a lot of that, which I think is great. I mean, with Kalnaka, I think, other than probably new sense and sights for him, because as we all know, Wookiees can sometimes lead with their nose, since we've seen Chewbacca do it many times. So he probably was just enjoying, just kind of taking everything in and seeing how things go. Torben, like you said, just seemed like he was definitely not prepared for what was going to happen. And then, of course, to have Naseya sit there and basically bring him to his knees, because I was just like, see, that was the part. That's why I was like, they treaded that gray line with the use of the Force, even though they call it the thread, but it's still the Force regardless. And yeah, and Dara definitely seemed to be more forthright with exactly what she wanted to happen. And Soul did what you would think any good patient Jedi would do. It had a very, I don't like, older Obi-Wan too, like almost kind of like that feel to him. And when the way he approached Osha and showed his lightsaber, and the way he just got on her level and treated her with that respect of just, hey, you're a child. I'm asking you questions. I just wanted the truth. I thought that was very well done. But I feel like in Dara, the way she handled it as the master of the group, and there was an arrogance there. And we've talked about how she seemed arrogant in the first episode as well. So clearly what we're seeing here is a continuation of that, but showing that she's always been kind of arrogant in some way, shape, or form. That she's pretty direct with what she wants. And even though she's trying to be diplomatic in some respects, it's like, I think you're onto something where she would have probably done it regardless of with or without permission. And yeah, I think it gives us four different looks into where the Jedi are as a whole. I wouldn't say it represents all of them, but it's I think it's pretty close. I think because we're seeing those types of personalities even in the first couple episodes. We're seeing them spread out through the different characters. So I'm really curious to see now if there is another. I wouldn't say another. I don't want to devote an entire episode, another flashback, but at least what is this really all that happened, or is there more? And that's where I think I'm hoping we get more to this. But if not, I agree. This is definitely kind of showing the Jedi's hands as to where they are. And it's definitely, I would say, the start of where you see the chinks in the armor for the Jedi.
I would say there has to be more. Otherwise, you're leaving massive loose ends. And I think that would be not great for the show. I think that would look back negatively on the show when you mention, well, if the Jedi find out how you created the children, well, that's one. You have to answer that question now. And then two, do we really believe that whole coven just died because May started a fire? Like, I didn't see any burned bodies. I seen a bunch of dead bodies, and then we go back to the episode before with is it Torben? Is that his name? Torben? So close to Tormund. But yeah, like he kills himself. Like there's so much guilt there that he kills himself. So something really bad happened there. And we didn't get that answered this episode other than what the end result was. There's more blanks to fill, whether it's in a flashback, though, or we find out in the current time. I think those questions are definitely going to be answered.
Don't forget, too, Torben enters there with no scar, and then you see that he has a scar on the plane, on the ship after. So whatever happens,
I missed that.
involves him getting that scar. So
yeah, I missed that. So I also didn't notice if what was the other mother's name?
Mother Coral is the one with the Dathomir looking horns.
Yeah. I didn't know, or I didn't notice if she was dead amongst the group there. If they show her body, and if they don't, then I think that might be pretty telling to who might be under the mask. So we'll see how that works. But I think there's more for her story too, and where she's approaching things from. And she was a little more anti-Jedi than is it Anastasia? That's the name, Anastasia. And I'm eventually going to get these names down. So I think there's a lot at work. Where it leads, I'm not sure, but I like that there's definitely mystery here. It's not so much who killed Indara as the mystery. No, there's there's a bunch of mystery that's slowly unraveling through these episodes and keeps you wanting to come back for more. I'm curious what you guys thought about the Jedi lying to Osha about her getting the answers incorrect and them saying it was right. Obviously, they're trying to catch her in the lie, but at the same time, one might say that is pretty shady shit, in my opinion. Anyways, I think that regardless if the kid was lying or not, it's not their kid to manipulate, and they 110% manipulated her in that scene, in my opinion.
Yes, we disagree. This is what I was waiting for. Now, I didn't think that was. I didn't think it was shady in any way. I think they knew what was happening. Like, I think they could very well sense that she was not being truthful, and that they really quickly were like, okay, someone told you to lie about this, right? I think they sensed the uneasiness, the like conflicting of her mind, and were able to quickly decipher. Like, I think maybe Soul was like, "Oh, what? No, yeah, you got that correct," and then see what she says, and then on the second one, they caught her on the second picture, right? So I think. And I also think that it speaks to Soul having a really good bond with her right away. Because, like, he approached her and she approached him, two people who have never met, and seemed to have a connection instantly when they were, at that meeting. That's what I got out of it. I actually didn't really pick up on it being a bad thing in any way. I mean,
so I guess I might have more, like, maybe I need to. I don't really know the rules of how it works in terms of recruiting potential Jedi children, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, this is father me talking, dad me talking, and not a character inside the Star Wars universe. I sit here and go, it doesn't matter if the little girl lied, and it frankly doesn't matter if the little girl wanted to go. She's a little fucking girl. And at the end of the day, kind of like Mother Anastasia said, I'll take what you want into consideration while we talk about this. But at the end of the day, sorry, you're a kid. It isn't your decision to make. And I felt like the Jedi were very much trying to push the, hey, if you want this, you got to be honest about it. So go be honest about it. And now actually just talking about this with you, knowing how the two mothers were on different sides of the fence with this, makes me go, oh, yeah, well, maybe she had a hand to play, and the other one had a hand to play in what happens with the rest of the Coven in terms of wanting to hang on to the children and wanting to be a little more forceful with them, and that they need a little more structure. And the Mother Anastasia was more lenient, obviously. And now I definitely think that I'm going to have to go back and look at the scene again to see if she's dead. But my money's on she's not, and she definitely had something to do with what happened. I don't know if she takes control of the, Torben Jedi again. I know it was Anastasia the first time, I believe, and then uses him to strengthen. I don't know. Like, I'm just spitballing here what could have happened. But now that, I look back at it and talk about it with you guys, I definitely think there's not just, political ramifications for what's going on and how the Jedi are handling it, which I don't think they're handling it great. I don't think it's as bad as some people thought it was going to be, myself included. But I also think there's a family perspective here when you have a mother and a father that all of a sudden don't see eye to eye on what they want for their kids, or in this case, a mother and a mother. And I think you get some pretty tragic shit when that stuff happens, whether it's real life or in the entertainment world. And so, yeah, it's kind of where my line of thinking is with what happened. What about you guys? Do you think there's anything to that? I know Kieran and I are on opposite sides of the fence in terms of the Jedi being nefarious or not. Randy, I don't know where you fall on that, but just in general, guys, maybe give me a little bit of conversation about what you think actually transpired there. I didn't notice the scar either that Kieran pointed out. Obviously, we see it in episode 2, but I didn't notice it at the end of the episode. And if it is there, it's one hell of a catch.
So for me, I felt like Soul could sense her fear, because there's that part of her where she wants to do it, yet she doesn't want to disappoint her family, doesn't want to disappoint her sister, and there's going to be that conflict there. But also the fear of slipping up, the fear of what can happen if she leaves the train to become a Jedi. I think Soul and Indara did pick up on that, and I think because you'd see Soul look over at her when he lies to her about what she claims to have seen. And Indara didn't give him really anything, didn't give him a nod, didn't give him nothing, just kind of looked at him like, okay. And I think that's kind of what forced him to be like, I'm going to try to catch her in the lie. I think that's really what he was trying to do. Like what a parent would tend to do with a kid in general. It's like they're sitting there telling you one story, and all you have to do is say the right thing to make him slip up and catch him in that lie. And in this case, I think it's exactly what he did. And that's when he came up with, like, if you truly want to be a Jedi, you have to be honest. You have to tell the truth. And I don't think he was trying to lead her on or push her in any one direction, but it seemed like from the word go, the minute she saw the Jedi, she wanted to become a Jedi. She wanted a lightsaber. She just was enamored by what the Jedi could be. And the fact of getting off of that planet and exploring, I felt like she had her, I wouldn't say fully, but she had like a Luke Skywalker moment of, it's boring here. There's got to be other things to do around. I want to go off adventuring. I want to become a Jedi. I want to do this. I want to get off this planet. And I mean, all you had to do is have her sitting, looking out the window at the two moons. And I've been like, there's your Luke Skywalker moment. But ultimately, I don't think the Jedi were trying to be nefarious. I think they were just trying to get the truth. At least Soul. Soul, like I said, Soul's the one that I feel like is what the Jedi should be, whereas the others are coming off as different variations of where the Jedi are that are causing issues within the Order, and the little chinks in their armor are kind of coming off because of this sort of behavior. So yeah, I think Soul's intentions were pure. Just because he wanted to make sure that she got what she wanted versus what everybody's telling her she should do.
Yeah, I mean, I could debate the whole philosophy and legacy of the Jedi, and I think they're all probably doing what they think is right, even though on TV we could definitely figure out what we think is right and wrong and be like, that doesn't sound right. But I think it's great in this show how we're seeing that, like, we're seeing so many different types of Jedi. We're seeing the Jedi be overgrown. I mean, even when they say, like, who's going to miss 4 Jedi? Like, that just tells you how many Jedi there must be. And we know there are thousands at this point. But, that at any other point in Star Wars that we know on screen, like, you're going to miss 4 Jedi. Here, they're like, it's like 4 policemen on Earth in all countries. Like, who's going to miss that? They might come and find it, whatever. And that just tells you how many different directions the Jedi are going to go in, because as much as they're all taught something, they're all taught by one master, and there's a little bit of a splinter, and then as the tree spreads out, as the pyramid spreads out, you get different sects of Jedi and different philosophies on it. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Jedi are going to be very flawed in this show. And I think it's okay. I think a lot of people are scared of that concept that, the Jedi, that Luke Skywalker is the ultimate good in Star Wars. And, well, if he was a Jedi, they should all be that good. And it's like, whoa, it's just not true.
They clearly didn't pay attention to the first 6 movies.
Yeah. Well, I think most people, that I talked to grew up with the originals, and we only knew Jedi that were good. And I mean, at that time, they were all pretty altruistic, and we all fantasized that they were the ultimate good guys, especially as kids when we don't really have the concept of good from from a certain point of view and everything like that. But
yeah, well, I think it's a really good point. I think there are a lot of people out there that are scared of how the Jedi might be perceived in this show, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the different takes. I love the point that you raised earlier about how kind of feels like the 4 Jedi that show up all have a different idea in mind in terms of how this should be handled. But let me take it back a step further. Why the fuck are they there to begin with? You cannot tell me they thought that was an uninhabited planet, as Mother Anastasia points out. So why are you there? What do they already know? That's another question that might get answered. Soul's very clearly looking for the kids at the beginning of the episode. And like to a point, he's paying so close attention that, the one doesn't have the marking on her head. Maybe again, Kieran and I will be on the opposite sides of the fence on this one, but I think they're up to nefarious shit. I think they're trying to almost dictate who they're going to take and who they're not going to take, and it's supposed to be a decision, and it feels like they're trying to take the decision out of the hands of the family a little bit, or the coven, if you will, and they come around swinging the Republic law stuff, and I don't know, so I don't believe the Jedi and the Republic at this point in time are linked together like they are in the prequel trilogy. I think it's more of a partnership rather than they're serving the Republic. So like there's definitely political dynamics that are important to what's going on that we just don't have the answers to necessarily. But yeah, I think there's, at the end of the day, a Jedi, he became a Jedi Master anyways, killed himself out of guilt over what happened. So it clearly not everything's on the level here. And I'm really, really curious to see the potential doors it opens up.
Well, I mean, think about it. Given the amount of force energy that entire coven had to be giving off in general, especially like during their ascension, and it's possible that there's times when they've done other things that just kind of, maybe someone's flying by and they're like, wait a second, do you sense that? Yeah, it's coming down from that planet. I thought that was uninhabited. Let's go check it out. It could have been something as simple as that. And then, doing the whole recon thing, Soul's like, hey, look, there's kids over there. They sense like it feels like they have the force within them. We should go test them. We should follow them. It's I mean, who knows? But I mean, it's the closest thing I can think of is they're going elsewhere and they just sense a huge gathering of the force and they're kind of going, I thought this place was uninhabited. Let's check it out. Could be as simple as that. I mean, I don't think it is, but until they actually sit down and say, yeah, we've had our eyes on this planet for years. We knew about the coven, so on and so forth. We just couldn't find a way of getting to land and actually search the planet for them. I mean, I don't know. Well, but that's the beauty of the fact that we haven't seen it yet and anything's possible. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, there's so many questions that still need to be answered. Who's the mask guy, right? What did they do to create the kids? Why were the Jedi there to begin with? What actually happened to the coven? Because it sure as hell wasn't a fire. Lots of questions remain. I think that's good for the show, though. Despite it only being 8 minutes long,
it seems to be the calling card of the show so far. Like, I mean, I know we talked last time about how episode 1 and 2 felt like one, but the very end of the episode was, oh, who the fuck is that shadowy guy? And at the end of episode 2, there was so many questions. Like, wait, actually, even at the end of episode 1, a lot of people thought that that may and like they might be the same person, or they might be a split personality, or they might be like there was so many questions at the end of episode 1, lots of questions at the end of episode 2. I know a lot of us felt right on, like, you know, hooked in for the next episode, excited for tonight, and I think the three of us would agree we're all hooked in for episode 4 now. So seems to be the calling card of the show.
And that's where I think the writing is good. I do think when people criticize some of the dialogue delivery in the first couple episodes, there are some very not great dialogue delivery, but I also think it's kind of intentional because there's not great dialogue delivery in the Phantom Menace. The Jedi aren't supposed to necessarily have a lot of personality to their to themselves, which is why I think Soul stands out. But you know, I think you're exactly right, Kieran. I absolutely think it's the calling card of the show, and that's good because it makes people want to come back for episode 4. And if episode 4 brings up some new questions and answers some of the other ones, keeps people coming back for episode 5. And if you really, you know, this is someone who is in love with the Knights of the Old Republic games. If you really think about when the last time is you played those games, specifically the first 2, not the Old Republic, from start to finish, and how many times, like for the first game, you're on Terrace and then you're on Dantooine, and you're constantly getting more questions about the different characters in your party and their backstory, and you want to find out more. And at that point, you don't even really have an idea you're Evan. And you know, there's definitely some of that DNA in this show. And it has me hooked. You know, I'm really happy with the direction it's heading. We'll begin to wind things down here. That's my next question. Where do you guys think this is going next, Kieran?
I don't think we're gonna get another flashback episode for probably another 2. I think we will find out more based on, you know, comments and things that we hear from the characters. I don't think we'll see it until maybe episode 6. Sorry, my dogs are now fighting. I don't think we'll get it till episode 6, so I think we'll get a little bit more about May and why she wants to get back at them. I think we'll get I think the next episode will be on KOFOR or wherever Kelnocka is. KOFOR? I don't know. I think the episode will almost entirely take place there, and the assassination attempt on him. I do think that might be where the big melee that everyone is looking for might happen, because it seems to be in a jungly type area. So my prediction is that the next episode is mainly about trying to assassinate Kelnocka on KOFOR.
Yeah, I don't know if that big melee is going to happen that episode or the following one. I don't think it's the end, because I don't think they'd show that. They do a pretty good job of not showing you end battles from these TV series. Randy, where do you think this is going?
No, I think definitely we're going to go back to everything that's going to be happening with Kelnocka. I think now that we have this, at least this small part of the backstory, it's time to come back to the present. And as we know, May knows where Kelnocka is. Everybody else knows where Kelnocka is. So it's at this point, it's going and trying to make sure he doesn't get assassinated. It's a shame none of us really speak Wookiee, because it'd be really interesting to see exactly what his take on events. But though I will say, it seemed like Osha understood Wookiee. If you noticed that, like, she had an understanding every time he said something to her. It's like you could see in her eyes. It's a weird
thing that everybody knows how to speak droid and everyone knows how to speak Wookiee. I tried to learn French for like 4 years now, and I barely say bonjour.
Bonjour.
Oh my god! I'm actually sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm gonna have to take off here. My dog is going nuts trying to get out. He's just a puppy right now. So, quickly, I'll give my score. I've been thinking about it the whole time. I'm gonna go with 8.5. I had a hard time. Like, I almost wanted to give it a 9 at how excited I was. But I'm going to go 8.5 because there was no cathartic moment yet. I feel like it's just the build up to something really good. 8.5 is going to be my score.
That's actually my score too. It's 8.5. You stole my score. 8.5.
I think it's 2.5. The show was bullshit. Fucking
Star Wars.
Who the hell wants to see a backstory for the whole goddamn time? There was way too many women in it. Blah 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 blah. Whatever other people are complaining about. No, I give it 8.5. Fantastic episode, and I will see you guys next week. I'm gonna go let Cooper out.
Sounds good, man. Have a great night. That's Kieran. He gave it 8.5 Neimoidians out of 10. I'm giving it 8.5 Neimoidians out of 10 with a side of Darth M count. Randy, what are you giving this episode?
Literally, I'm giving it an 8.5 as well. I feel like it was a great episode, but I feel like there's more. We can push the envelope further. We can get something that's going to really push it over to where we get to that 9 or 9.5. I'm waiting for it. And you know what? I almost can guarantee you the reveal of the Sith, whomever it is. Either that's going to be the episode, or that's going to tank that episode, because I don't want you to be remotely right about it being that other woman, the other female from the Coven, because that's too easy. That's too easy.
Well, I also don't want it to be Manny Jacinto's character. I can't remember his name either.
Right.
I could see, again, I think everybody that we've seen on screen so far is not the Master, including the guy with the red lightsaber blade. I'm pretty convinced the Master at this point in time, if it's not Plagueis, it's Tenebris. So, and then everybody underneath him.
So the other guy's is more of a Sith apprentice then.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. Like the red lightsaber guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. That's where I'm with it anyway. But I'm really enjoying the direction of this man. I'll be honest, I had a chance to rewatch episodes 1 and 2, and they didn't hit for me as much. I found things that stood out more, and it's not that they were bad. They weren't bad. They're still good episodes. It was a good beginning to the series. But there were a lot of little things that bothered me, and I'll eventually watch this episode a second time too. But I just kind of felt like this was just leaps and bounds above the first two.
Oh, I definitely agree. I liked the way they played with the difference in the light and the dark between the twins. That really kind of was set them apart, but also really showed like just how they hadn't really changed much after everything has happened. Osha still wants to do the right thing, even though she's extremely upset and pissed off about what happened with on the planet. But also May's trying to get revenge, which we still don't know what the revenge really is. So, she's taken out Jedi, and we have an idea. We can guess, but you're right. We have yet to figure out the actual what happened that set May on this trajectory, unless it's the whole idea of the 4 Jedi taking Osha away from her.
I think that plays into it for sure. I got 2 siblings out of the 3. 2 of them obviously live together. They're very close, and the younger one would definitely play the role of May in this regard. Needless to say. Anyways, though, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is going to do it for our episode. We're in at a tidy 55 minutes here. Big thanks to Kieran for coming out. Really, really, really liked this episode. Really had some Game of Thrones vibes to it. I can't think of too much negative. Thanks to those of you that tuned in for the live chat. Thank you to everybody who is going to tune in after the fact too. I think Randy just made reference to not exactly knowing what May's revenge is. And we'll see. I mean, I do think having your sister taken away was going to be, one thing. And then we also don't know how it changes knowing that she's alive now. So, I do think there's a world where if something happens to May, Osha could still become the Acolyte, if you will, because of everything that's gone down. And if she finds out more that she doesn't know, remember, we now know that she doesn't know what happened to everybody there.
Yeah, very true. And we also know that they're technically connected by their thread. We've seen that through Osha's dreams, that they're connected that way still. So obviously, if something bad does happen to May, she's gonna feel it, and it could set her down that path, because maybe that'll, losing her sister would probably be the one thing that I could see her try to get revenge for, other than, so yeah, that's always a possibility for Osha, but we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, is May irredeemable? Maybe. It seems like she's had those dark tendencies all along based on just this one flashback episode.
No, for sure. I would agree with that. And you know what? I don't think everybody can be redeemed. That's something that Star Wars kind of has to get away from, in my opinion. But anyways, what did you think of the episode? Comment down below. Share your thoughts there. Let us know. Don't forget, this Sunday night, we have our immediate review of House of the Dragon Season 2 premiere. And then Monday night, we'll do a full breakdown of it. House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1. You'll be able to catch Randy, Kieran, and myself on that episode. So be on the lookout for that. And then next Tuesday, here again, Star Wars The Acolyte, Episode 4. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our patrons. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. Appreciate you spending your hard-earned dollars on supporting our programming. And to our sponsors, Storytime Spectacular, Backtrack Cinema, Colleague Nation, Matt and Chris. Without you guys, again, we wouldn't be here. Big thank you. We'll see you again. And may the Force be with you.